evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
All right, 89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio. It's your old friend Virgil back once again with a couple of guests here. We got JT in the house, we got Mark in the house, and we have a very special guest who we are very excited to welcome to the Mahoning family, the one, the only Andre Gower. How are you, my friend?
I am doing pretty good. Thanks for having me. And always nice to be part of a new family. I'm digging it.
Well, we're very excited to have you next week. And our thought with jumping on this podcast is to kind of give people some background before they get to the theater on kind of the project that you're bringing with WOLFMAN'S GOT NARDS, as well as your experiences not only working on Monster Squad, but being sucked up into the fandom of Monster Squad, which is an amazing thing. But more than anything, it's kind of a way for people to get a look behind or the man underneath of the Stephen King Rules t-shirt. So it's going to be very fun. So we like to keep it super drive-in heavy and drive-in geared. So do you have any drive-in experiences? Does the drive-in kind of hold a special place in your heart?
That might be a TMI question. Any drive-in experiences? Wait a minute.
No need to go super detail.
I wish that the drive-in that I used to go to as a kid was still around when I was old enough to maybe have a quote-unquote drive-in experience. But alas, I will have to just watch 50s movies instead or listen to Bob Seger songs. So no, I don't have any of those, which would be great. But yes, Virgil, you and I have texted about it before. We mentioned I love the drive-in movie theater. I think to me, it's certainly iconic, but to me, this sounds almost it's so Americana to me. You know, the drive-in movie theater is really the thing that drives mid-century kind of Americana home for me in the movie kind of world.
Right.
Probably because I grew up watching old movies, and then of course I was a huge fan of Grease, the movie, and you know, it's got great drive-in theaters.
Yeah.
But we also, you know, I grew up in LA, which, you know, you wouldn't think, you know, usually drive-ins are in, you know, kind of outskirts or rural towns or Midwest. And that's not true. Like, we had great drive-in movie theaters in Los Angeles area.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just a lot of space. Now they're not there because, you know, they need condos. And we had two in the Valley, you know, by itself. We had the Winnetka Drive-In and we had the Van Nuys Drive-In, which is featured in
Tarantino,
Hollywood.
Yep.
And then there's wonderful ones way out east of town and in Orange County. Is it the Rialto? No, there's a gorgeous one that's still around with a wonderful back screen in the corner with great, you know, kind of mid-century architecture. Right. But my drive-in was the Winnetka 4 in Northridge, California.
Beautiful.
And it was adjacent to the Northridge Mall, which of course is famous because it's the one that got damaged in the 94 earthquake. And but right next to that was the Winnetka 4 Drive-In. And I went with friends and their families, but I used to go to the drive-in with my dad. And I think we saw probably dozens of movies at the drive-in, but the one I remember, I don't know if it was first or last, but probably one of the most memorable is I saw Octopussy at the drive-in theater with my dad.
Come on.
Who was a giant James Bond fan. And I think that was probably a turning point in my life where I realized what Bond women were and why people liked to go to these movies, because Maude Adams changed my life at the drive-in.
Yep.
And
I say it, I became a man at the drive-in. It definitely is that kind of rite of passage. When you're a kid, it really captures your heart. And certainly for all of us, we had that kind of rite of passage. So do you think your love of movies kind of came from that experience and why you kind of got into acting?
Well, I think it certainly helped and supplemented it. I didn't go to the drive-in probably till I was 8 or 9 or 10. My dad had this big, like 1979 Ford LTD, which was like a boat.
Love it.
And it was so comfortable. And I think the windshield is probably the size of a small yacht. And great car. And I even went to the drive-in day where you just had the box on the window. And then I remember my mind was blown where you could put the clip on your antenna and hear it through your speaker. I was like, oh my God, it's the Jetsons.
The future, we are
insane.
there.
This is insane. How do they do this magic?
Yeah.
But no, I was actually already, I started working when I was 5. So, the actual experience of being in TV shows and in commercials and in movies predates my first drive-in experience.
Yeah.
But I think the drive-in experience supplemented the movie-going experience and the enthusiasm to actually be in and perform in TVs and film. And, like I said, so much so that and we lost the drive-in, well before I was a teenager, which was just a loss.
Yeah.
And even the Van Nuys went shut down, so we couldn't go to that. I can't remember what year. I think maybe we got to 1 when a friend of ours had a car or something, but we were probably young. But in college, I was still so in love with the drive-in movie theater experience and the style of what it was. I have a mass comm journalism degree, and when I was at my second college, I went to college to play basketball in North Carolina at 2 different schools.
Yeah.
My second one was UNC Asheville, and I was a mass comm journalism major, and we had to write your big senior paper. And, it's the head of the department. It's the senior big level, 400 level class, whatever that BS means. And you had to pick a piece of something media,
right,
like something that was important in America, but and write the impact that piece of media had on, the times. And you couldn't pick the telephone or the television because that was easy. And I picked the drive-in movie theater to write my senior paper on.
Amazing.
And the problem with that is this is pre-internet. Like the internet when I was a senior had just started to become a thing. This is 95, right? Yeah. Kathy Mitchell, head of the department, she was like, oh my God, I've taught this class, no one's ever picked that. I love it. I can't wait to read your paper. And by the way, read the syllabus of the paper. You have to have 25 sources, reference sources. And let me tell you, pre-internet, there are no books or publications written about the damn drive-in movie theater. And we had this sort of like book exchange with the university system to the state. And he grabbed something, but it was nothing. Like some of my pulled references were advertisements from a magazine. And I'm here to tell you, and I've actually thanked him in person because I finally got a chance years ago. The only book that's about the drive-in movie theater is Joe Bob Briggs' book.
That's right.
And I got that from another library, and I was supposed to have like 20 reference sources, and I only had like 8. And I got a whole letter grade marked down because I didn't fulfill the requirements, but at least I got a B on my paper because the only reason it got a B is because there was no books written about the drive-in.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things like we have a couple of books here, just kind of here so we can flip through it when we have some downtime. But the great thing about the drive-in culture is, it's having its resurgence and revival. And we like to say that we are a big part of writing the next chapter of the history of the American drive-in.
I believe that to be so, and I hope it happens because I've been mentioning that even before we connected because I knew you guys were doing awesome stuff, and I was like, have you seen what these guys are doing? And I was like, oh my God, it's the drive-in. I was like, can I go there and see Octopussy? And it was it's just fascinating to me. And then of course we have this weird time and we have COVID.
Yeah.
And the shutdown, but then you would think everything, but the drive-ins have started to pop back up again and thrive. And you guys were already chugging along and just had these awesome events. So I was like, yeah, see, everybody watch that. And then watch everybody look at that and then watch everybody try to recreate that in different places, which I'm totally fine with.
Totally.
I am totally fine with that. And what's really cool is I actually, I'm friends with, his name is Adam Hewlin. And I know him originally as a film collector, because he and his buddy Matt Panacci would go around and collect 35 and 16 millimeter films from all over the country. I only know these guys because they are the two that ended up having the 35 millimeter print of Monster Squad that resurfaced in 2006. It's the only known copy that the Alamo Drafthouse used.
Right.
And I was living in Raleigh at the time, and the Alamo, I think Tim Lieberton was like, oh, these guys that we got the print from, they live in Durham. I was like, that's right up the road from me. I was like, give me the guy's number. They're like, you're going to call him? I was like, absolutely.
You sound like my people.
And so, yeah, I called up Matt Panacci, and he's like, I was like, is this Matt? And he's like, yeah. I was like, hey, this is Andre Gower. He's like, no, it's not.
He's like,
and so we went to dinner and went to his house, and we've been friends for a year. But his buddy Adam was also a filmmaker, and he made this anthology short that I'm actually in. I was in it. And it's funny. I think it's on Prime now. It was really a unique situation, but he directed this bit. But he told me he owned a drive-in movie theater in Texas, and I'm like,
no way.
What are you talking about? What are you doing here? He's like, oh, well, we've owned it. We bought it years ago. We opened it a little bit. We just can't get it. I was like, I'm moving to Texas and opening your drive-in movie theater. Like, let's do this. I was like, this was a long time ago. It was about 15 years or so. And I was like, why are we not doing it? What is wrong with you?
It's the dream.
But like no one was interested in it at that time. And I don't think he still owns it, but I bet he wishes he did.
Yeah, it's strange how things come around. Even our storied history is, the Mahoning was kind of forgotten about by the locals. And we really had to push to kind of find a way to make it sellable to people outside of the local community. And once the documentary came out and all that, it's amazing to see Hollywood embrace it. And now, having the guests out like yourself, it adds a level of fandom that people could never get at a regular indoor theater, a regular experience. It's truly immersive,
No, it's a whole other type of
more like a concert. And now,
that's what I say. More of an, without saying really hipster, but as an immersive experience, right? It's you're a part of it. You're inside of it. You're not just observing it, from a seat in a darkened room, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I loved was what I thought was the, kind of modern iteration of the drive-in theater to have that experience, like JT said, was when the Alamo Drafthouse used to do the Rolling Roadshow.
Mm-hmm.
And that blew my mind. The Alamo Drafthouse as a company used to do this summer traveling roadshow with an inflatable drive-in movie theater screen and this great audio. And they would go do these great screenings in these amazing locations. And it blew my mind when, they would show, they do Jaws on the beach.
I love that.
Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
And you're floating in the water at night.
Talk about
Jaws.
The perfect gimmick. No. Like, I'm in.
Absolutely. And so it melded, kind of melded the two kind of gimmicky experiences and retro screenings with what, arguably is a drive-in. But, they did everything. They did, it was a portable drive-in movie theater, right? And there's a point to this story. Hopefully I'll get there. And, they did stuff like, Ferris Bueller's in Oak Park, Illinois, under the water tower that still says St. Ferris. They'd escape from Alcatraz on Alcatraz Island.
Beautiful.
One that I thought would be amazing is they did the Searchers in Monument Valley, and that's a destination. That is nowhere near it.
Yeah,
that is not near anything. And they just did really cool stuff like that, and that inspired me because of my love with the drive-in. And then I knew Tim and the Alamo folks way back in the day. This is way before the 30th anniversary tour or the documentary.
Right.
And I had worked it out. I was creating a film festival for the city of Asheville in North Carolina. And one of the things I was going to do is I was borrowing the Alamo Rolling Roadshow kit and showing movies at two locations. One, I was showing it on the quad of UNC Asheville, and have students come and, see some movie as part of either a retro screening with guests or some festival film.
Right.
And then I was, one of my best friends was worked as a general manager at the minor league baseball team in Asheville. So I wanted to show a movie in the baseball stadium. And so I put the inflatable drive-in screen like on second base and you watch a movie. And it worked out good because it was coming up to like the the 20th anniversary of Bull Durham that I wanted to do, and that's where that movie ended, and have Kevin Costner's band play and all that. But that, you know, that it was that blending of that road show with the drive-in. I was like, I'm doing like I want to incorporate the drive-in into my festival experience. Yeah. And this is the only way to do it. And then that even translated into years later. I had this massive dream that this documentary would be this huge hit, and I would get to go sell a very VIP experience for, you know, fans only, and show the doc at Town Square on a drive-in screen at Warner Brothers, which would have been really cool. Yeah. So that was sort of, you know, the drive-in is always inspired somewhere in my mind with anything that I'm doing. And I didn't realize that until you start really kind of thinking about it a little deeper.
Yeah, it's incredible. It sticks with you.
There's a drive-in in the movie. There's a drive-in
in the movie.
Right?
That's right. Yeah. It's it doesn't exist. It's a matte painting with some visual effects technology, but it still looks awesome.
Yeah. That visual stuck with me for years. I told you, Andre, that it's very strange that we booked you, because I literally wanted to be you most of my childhood. I'm sure you get that a lot from people, but it's the prime role, and probably a role of a lifetime, as you know. Let's kind of segue into it. How old were you when you were cast in Monster Squad?
We went through the casting process of Monster Squad in the late summer of '86. So I was 13, and we shot the movie September, October, November, I believe. And then it came out that summer of '87, of course, which was a giant year for movies in general. And then our little box office tanker. And I was 14 when it came out. So we shot it when I was 13. It came out when I was 14.
So what was your experience in Hollywood before Monster Squad, kind of your early years? Like you said, you got into acting very young.
I did. I mentioned, you know, I started working in front of the camera, you know, be it commercials or TV shows or movies or print work when I was about 5. You know, which is not late in the game. It's fairly early.
Yeah, I would say.
And it was sort of a natural segue progression. My sister is a little bit older. She's a few years older than I am, and she had worked quite a bit when she was a kid. And her biggest and coolest credit is actually in one of, it has nothing to do with her, but it's one of my all-time favorite movies, because we used to watch it a couple of times a year because she's in it. But she's the little girl that Paul Newman saves in the Towering Inferno.
Wow.
And so that's my sister.
Wow,
and this is, you know, talk about a huge, iconic studio movie with a giant cast and these huge movie stars. And then, you know, my sister and Mike Lookinland, who was Bobby Brady, is the other kid in the movie. Yeah. And, you know, I started seeing that movie. I was on that set. You know, I was in a bundle of diapers, I think, but I was on that set. And, you know, there was a lot of cool people on that set. And so I always say, I was like, yeah, I hung out with them. And I did not, but I like to think I did. And that movie became so iconic as such, sort of so Hollywood, you know, to me, even as a young kid. There's this giant thing, you know, the biggest movie of all time at the, you know, in those years, and the biggest cast and all these different contract things. And, you know, the credits with Paul Newman, you know, they started the slanted thing on the right where it's above the guy on the left. And Steve McQueen wanted to be the architect, but they cast him as the artist. He's like, I want to be the fire chief. He's like, he's only in the third act. And he's like, and I want the same exact word count as the lead of the movie. They're like, how does that happen? It's like, you rewrite the script.
Make it
And it's this huge, and they built scale models, and it was actual fire. There's no digital. It's a wonderful movie. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
For one of the campy disaster movies, I think it's the best one. A lot of people love Poseidon Adventure. It's great. Towering Inferno is better. So that started, you know, kind of stoking the fire, pun intended.
Yeah.
But I was just sort of next. And when I was 5, I've been around it. And I don't think you're really making a lot of your decisions when you're 5. So it's usually the people that are in charge of you, a la your parents.
Right.
And since I think it was just sort of, hey, he's 5, he's probably that 8. Let's see if it's something that, you know, he connects with or wants to do. And for some reason, I wasn't afraid of it. And I always say I was kind of like a duck to water maybe. And I was comfortable with it and just started working. And I could handle myself in front of a camera, or take direction at a young age, or learn lines, or learn how to stand here and have a cheesy grin on your face for an inordinate amount of time. And that just went for years, and that led to more commercials and more TV shows and films. And I did my resume and my kind of kid career as an actor sort of has almost that opposite. Everybody always goes, I run down your IMDb credit and your resume is amazing. You've been on every awesome show, and you've been a guest star on this, and you did this show for this. And I'm like, yes, but if you actually read between the lines of my resume, the reason I was able to do all of these shows and all these guest spots, because I wasn't tied up with one thing that I did for 10 years straight, right? My TV career, full of awesome guest spots. We get it. There's some highlights that everybody always loves to talk about, like, the A-Team and Knight Rider and things like that. And I was TJ
Mr. Belvedere.
Mr. Belvedere.
Yeah, my girlfriend would kill me if I didn't ask you about Mr. Belvedere. She's a giant.
Okay, we'll get to that. Remind us. We'll get to that. And but what's iconic is I actually did a lot of television series, but they all went for one. I did 5 or 6 TV shows that went 1 or 2 seasons instead of one show that went 6 years,
right?
That everybody knows. And so that's sort of the trade-off there, right? But that, the trade-off is you have the time to go do all this other stuff because you're available. When you're doing a TV show for 22 episodes, you don't get to do anything else.
You're locked. Yeah.
And, it's very hard. And then Monster Squad comes along, when you're 13, and I had gone right into, for some TV shows and television series into Monster Squad. And then right after Monster Squad, I went right back into working on TV shows. And that was right at the time when Fox was a brand new network.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Monster Squad about to come out. I sign on to a new show on a brand new network, and it's guaranteed for 2 seasons, and it's starring George C. Scott and Conrad Bain. And they bring in Madeline Kahn, and it was a show called Mr. President. And it was one of the first 6 or 7 original shows when Fox was a brand new network. And, got to work, the girl in that series, her name was Maddie Corman. And, she was a kid from, New York City, and she still works. She looks exactly the same as she did when she was 18. And you see her all over the place, and she's in the Mr. Rogers movie.
Amazing.
And she really is one of the most uniquely, visually appearing people. Like no one looks like Maddie Corman. Maddie Corman looks like nobody. Like people aspire to be that set off, and she's got such this personality. She's really good. And, and then right after Mr. President went off, it got canceled after the 2nd season again. I joined the cast of the Hogan Family, and that was supposed to go a couple seasons. And I only did like half of one season, or, 5 or 6 episodes. Cause I was brought in to be the friend of Jeremy Licht and Danny Ponce, who were the younger kids on Hogan Family. Yeah. And then that led up sort of to like my junior year of high school. And I sort of took a break my senior year. And I still read for stuff if it was, or something worth it or major, but I knew I wanted to concentrate on, not missing out on my senior in high school. And then I was looking forward to applying and going to college.
Sure.
And so I sort of took a break. And, from 5 years old until 18 years old, I was on and off television, and not, in and out of numerous different things, and constantly working.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, James, if you want, why don't you pop in there before we jump into the squad with your coveted Mr. Belvedere?
Oh, she's a huge. Oh, she doesn't talk about Mr. Belvedere.
So who doesn't love Mr. Belvedere?
Something about this. She'll hear this. So
yeah. Well, what's her name? What's her name? Lisa.
Yep.
Hey, Lisa, Andre here. Also fellow Mr. Belvedere fan. The only difference between us two is I was fortunate enough I got to do an episode of Mr. Belvedere, and maybe you saw it. It's what was really cool is it ties in with a certain era of time, right?
Oh yeah.
I do this episode, and Bryce Beckham, who is the younger kid on Mr. Belvedere, he has a new friend at school, and boy, he dresses really sharp, and that means suspenders and a bolo tie, by the way. Sure. And Cavaricis and a button up all the way to the top. It's awful. But this kid's like, cool and wealthy, and but he can't read. So we're in high school, like in whatever, and we find out. So this, you just got to teach him how to read, because he's bounced around with his dad's job, but never really caught on. So it was sort of that on a very special Mr. Belvedere. But it was fun to do. And what was great about it is Bryce had a couple school kid friends as recurring characters on Belvedere at the time, and one of them was Seth Green.
Wow.
And everybody's favorite person. And this was a couple years after Monster Squad, and I only know Seth because Seth had come out to LA to screen test for Monster Squad, and I had already been we were waiting to fill in the role of Patrick, was like the last one, and there was an LA choice and a New York choice, and Seth and his mom had to fly out to LA, and I had to spend the day with this kid that I'd never met before, who'd been in a ton of movies and TV shows, and he was like this really ball of energy, and he's like a comedy kid. He's just like whipping out jokes left and right, and I was like, I don't know who is this kid? Who is this kid? And they ended up giving the role to Robbie Kiger and not Seth Green. Yeah. But what's interesting about that is I didn't know it until years later that weekend was very instrumental in Seth Green's career trajectory, because they said, hey, this is where you need to be. You need to be in it. So they moved shortly after that Monster Squad screen test trip.
Great.
And if they hadn't done that, he wouldn't have become Seth Green, and we all would have been at a loss for that.
Oh, totally.
And because he doesn't do anything that's not just so fun.
It's true.
And he to this day, and then I got to work with him and Mr. Belvedere, and he's had such a run. And then of course he's in Wolfman's Got Nards because he has a connection to Monster Squad, and we've been friends for years and years. And even though you may not see someone for 5, 6, or 10 years, it doesn't mean you're not friends anymore. Yeah. And you share this sort of common thing, and you have this history and experiences. And honestly, that doesn't happen with everybody, but with Seth Green, he's literally one of the most down to earth and genuinely nice guys in this business. And he was gracious enough to take time out of his busy day, doing 3 television shows and winning daytime Emmys, to sit down and talk about his Monster Squad experience and his fandom and what fandom means to him. And then we got to reminisce a little bit. And he actually showed up when I moved back to LA a number of years ago to do I was creating a TV show, and I needed him to come and do the spec pilot. I produced a spec pilot for it, and he was like, man, that idea sounds great. Where and when do you want me to show up?
Amazing.
And I was like, I can't pay you for this. He's like, I didn't ask to be paid for it. This is a good concept. Let's see if we can get it going.
What a great.
He showed up and worked 2 full 12-hour days, and I gave him a ton of dialogue, and that's the type of guy. And the only thing he asked for was like, could I get a bottle of water? I was like, yes, we can handle that.
That's beautiful.
And so when you call him up and ask him to be in the doc, and it's still sort of full circle of you think back of sort of all these kind of there's a whole circle of your story, and then there's little circles inside your stories, and there's different people that kind of keep revolving around in those orbits, and I'm glad he's one of them, and he's in the doc. So whoever gets to come on Friday and Saturday, you'll see Seth Green in there if you're a Seth Green fan, and you'll see some other people. But Bryce Beckham, I wish, was in it, but he doesn't have a Monster Squad connection. So that's good. But Mr. Belvedere, what a great show. And another thing, a feather, that I get a feather in my cap that I get to say I did. And because that was a funny show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a nice segue as far as talking about the film, the documentary. What can you say? Obviously, you probably have endless stories about on the set, which we can save for when people come and see you on Friday and Saturday. But why don't you speak on the fandom that has grown from the Monster Squad, and why you decided to eventually make the documentary?
Yeah, I mean, we could literally talk all night about that very thing, but that's really what the documentary really is all about. It's not a making of documentary. It's not a where are they now documentary. And I always say it's not like that, hey, open wide, here comes a shovel full of nostalgia for you, and then before we get anything good, we're going to leave. It's definitely not that. And I realized a number of years ago that the connection and the impact that this film had on its fan base, whether they saw it at the theater or they taped it off HBO or, stole the tape from the video store down the block, that this movie really connected with these fans in some way, shape, or form, and for some reason. And at the beginning, we thought this was, we had this reunion thing at the Alamo, and it's been 20 years, and or it's been 19 years at that time. It's like, oh, there's some people that like it. Hey, we get a little attention for a little bit. We thought it was going to last 6 months, and then it didn't. And we're like, oh, is this going to last a year? Like, are we going to keep talking about this? And that was 15 years ago last weekend.
Amazing.
And the only reason is because this fan base connected with this movie and didn't let it die in their heart and in their guts and in their brains. And then they passed it along and they passed it down. And now we have a whole second generation of fans. But like I mentioned, we thought meaning cast and, me, Ashley, Ryan, the people that were sort of out there in front of the fandom in 06, 07, that it wouldn't last long. And not only did it not die out, it just kept going on this kind of upward trajectory, which means your foundation and base just gets stronger and deeper.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. And then you hear all these stories that honestly, for the first, few months or few years that you appear and you hear these stories of, no, you don't understand, it's my favorite movie of all time. You think it's just the regular kind of, we love this movie, it's so cool, it's great, like it's my favorite as a kid. And you don't listen to what's actually happening. But when those stories didn't stop coming, and when they start getting more and more and more, and more people were coming out, and more people were getting social on the internet and telling their stories and interfacing with us in person, I started to realize that what we thought, or what I thought, was the same story being said over and over again. I love this movie, it was so fun, it's 87. That's not what they're saying. What they were really saying is that this movie is very special to me. And do you mind if I tell you why?
Yeah.
And I started to listen deeper to those and realize that we were experiencing something that I thought was rather unique, that I didn't really see across the aisle at a convention or in other theaters when I'd go to retro screenings with Q&As. There's something different. The level of attachment of Monster Squad fans is just different. And I've tried to convince myself that I'm seeing it that way because I'm inside, I'm literally inside the vortex of all of this, and I'm just being biased with it. But I've removed myself, consciously, and said, this is different. Something is special here. And then I realized it was that these stories that we kept hearing, that I kept hearing, and I realized that their stories were a story. And that's what I really set out and aimed for, what I hoped Wolfman's Got Nards would tell.
Yeah. Well, it's such an incredible documentary. We're so excited to bring it to the big screen. And I mean, talk about an ideal double. You're watching a film that you love so much, that means so much to you, with you. And then we get to enjoy this film that just basks in the fandom of it. It's going to be, for a fan, one of the most exclusive and exciting Monster Squad experiences they could get.
I think so. And, so thanks for making that happen, because we've done it a couple of times, during our film festival run, which was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We've had a long path of getting this movie out into the world, this documentary. And hopefully it just continues to grow and grow, and then we ran into a COVID year. So that kind of, we got kicked in the nards movie wise in that. But these opportunities are really neat, and you're right. It is a great double feature. You could show it with it could be a double bill with other documentaries.
Sure.
It certainly could if you had that. But it's just, they're like, there's no way if we're doing two, we're doing it bang, bang.
Oh, totally.
And when it happens, it works, and people dig it. And it's just a great experience. So I think everybody, even if you're not a Monster Squad fan, if maybe you've never seen Monster Squad, hopefully you'll like Monster Squad. And Wolfman's Got Nards is not just for super Monster Squad fans. We were also made a conscious effort of, this documentary is interrogating the dynamic a little bit of how something like a movie or cinema or a TV show or a book or a work of art or a song can connect with someone and stay with them for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And this just happens to be told through the lens of Monster Squad fans. And all the things that I said this documentary isn't, like a making of or where are they now or a nostalgia shovel, we have a little of that throughout it.
Sure,
right?
yeah,
You kind of have to. It serves its purpose, but really what it is, it's turning that attention around on the people in general. The only reason people get to make movies or be in movies, it's the people that buy the tickets and become fans and continue to support you. And I don't think there was a lot of people telling that story out there.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to have a no-brainer, kind of shooting fish in a barrel opportunity to tell a story about fans that I know very well. And so in that aspect, it was quite easy. But the production of the documentary was anything but. It was a lot of work over 12 months.
Right.
It was a blast, and I'm super thankful to all the fans that we met on the road. The Alamo that we did another tour on, and then I even went on another tour when the movie was done, when the documentary was done, all the way down to Pilgrim Media Group and my guys Henry McComas and Wes Caldwell and Aaron Kunkel and Shane Patterson and everybody that worked on it. It was a very small footprint. It looks like this giant kind of super slick, kind of big budget documentary, and it's anything but because of the work and the enthusiasm that these guys put into it, it looks like that. And the reason is because no one worked on this movie that didn't either appreciate it or fans happened to be with the Monster Squad. And so they were really excited about working on something that didn't feel like a job.
Right. Well, it's got a great crossover, and we say it, we take suggestions from fans. We have a suggested double feature box in our concession lobby, and no joke, Monster Squad is suggested on a regular basis. It's probably one of our most suggested titles out there. So a lot of excitement for people who don't know. $15 at the gate. We're going to be doing a Q&A each night. The gate opens at 5 o'clock, which is worth mentioning, an hour before our traditional gate opens. And that's to give you time to bring your memorabilia and meet Andre and all that good stuff. So we also have a great poster, an amazing original t-shirt, all sorts of fun memorabilia. So be sure to make your way on out there. Now, Mark, I know we fielded a question or two from the fans.
Yes, we do have one Facebook question, and this is sanitized for sensitive ears. Leaving the F-bomb out. Why didn't you tell anyone you were in northeastern Pennsylvania shooting Baby Frankenstein? This is a little bit of an accusation. This is a direct question.
I wasn't in charge of that. That was
well, that's a local connection.
Attention, everyone! I'm in this town on this day. Come find me.
I don't think Baby Frankenstein as a production would have been able to absorb any other attention. Because it was certainly a unique experience and one that you can certainly make jest of and poke fun at, but I take it in the other direction, in the fact that the only reason I was associated with Baby Frankenstein, and I still don't think it's a Frankenstein because it's not like it's an automaton. It was totally different. So, but I get it. It works. Is two friends of mine are from. My friend TJ is from Jessup, and his girlfriend Denise, and we've been pals in LA for years, and they had gone back to his hometown to live for a little bit and do something, and they ran into a filmmaker. And apparently, I think the story goes that the filmmaker, John Yonkondi, who's from Pittston, across from Wilkes-Barre, across the river, I believe, if my Scranton my Scranton geography is correct, he said, hey, I have this movie and I've got a couple guys that want to pay for it. And they said, well, hey, we're production people. Let's make your movie. I think that's how the whole thing kind of got started. And then apparently somewhere in the conversation, my name came up, and apparently John had either known me from work or maybe had seen Monster Squad, and said, "Oh my God, do you think
we could get him for Baby
come and be in the movie?" and usually you're like, usually a lot of times the answer should be no. It should be like, I don't know anybody. Like, what is their budget? And it was super low budget. But if you approach it from only that mentality, you could be missing out on some fun
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of local filmmakers and regionals and low budget type stuff, because that's where it all starts, right? We all love big slick network TV shows and movies, and I've been in them. I've also been in really crappy local low budget anythings, and those are fun because you're being a part of something that's new and creative, but if hopefully you can help in the success of whoever the people that are trying to do it. And I think this was one of those situations. But what was interesting with Baby Frankenstein is the budget was supposed to be X, and it was supposed to be like a 15-day shoot. And I said, well, send me the script. And I was like, oh, you know what? I kind of like this guy. This is kind of neat. So how's this going to work? He's like, well, not really anybody else is getting paid, but like, we can pay you a little bit of something, and you got to work it out, union wise. And I was like, look, let me ask you two questions. Does me coming and being in this movie help the movie in any way, shape, or form? Or is it just like a square peg in a round hole? Because a lot of times you get asked to be in someone's little film just because they meet you. And it's like, great, what's the role? It's like, I'm remaking the Golden Girls and you're Sophie. Like, that's not going to work. Like, it shouldn't really, like, you can't cast me as like the 6'5" alien creature. Like, it just doesn't work.
Right.
I'm much shorter than that. And they were like, yeah, totally works with this character. And then I said, okay, and also, will me coming and doing this, will this help you guys? Like, you're trying to make this, like, I don't know the setup. And I just think they're making a movie on a lower budget, and it's supposed to be like 15 days. And with my character, I read the script, and they're like, it's probably 8 days, maybe 9, just depends on how much we get. But this guy's kind of in a lot of the movie, and it's an important part, important part of the story. I was like, sounds cool. So they set it up, and I got on a red eye and flew to Scranton, connected to Philly, of course. And on the way there, apparently they had to rewrite the entire script, and the shoot went from 15 days to 7 days. So now that means I only have like 3 days. And I'm like, turn the plane around. This is not what is happening here. But I don't know that until I get there. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was cold at night. And I remember the first scene, they were doing the bowling alley scene, and my friend's dad picked me up at the airport because he was on set, and I stayed with my friend's parents, and she cooked like these giant meals every night. I was like, you're killing me.
Amazing.
And then his dad like drove me to the set, and it was just an experience of making a low budget movie as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. I just hope what I did. I didn't even have a lot to do anymore, right? Because like most of this guy got cut out. But I was like, hey, I'm here. Let's just knock this out and hope the experience is good for everybody. And I didn't see it until it actually released on Prime like last summer, because I think COVID was the best thing that ever happened to Baby Frankenstein, because they got a release and it got out and people started talking about
that
it.
discovery.
And I was really surprised, because a PR company out of LA called me and was like, hi, I'm so-and-so at so-and-so PR firm. I'm like, okay. He's like, and we're handling the publicity for Baby Frankenstein. I went,
what?
You're what? I was like, this is amazing. What is happening here?
That's awesome.
This is actually getting out to the world. And they're like, yeah. And once obviously your name is used in, it's part, because no one else was an experienced actor except for one other cast member,
right,
who was the crazy bad guy, and he was amazing. And everybody else is kind of local or regional, and or one of the producers. And it was just this kind of experiment for John Young-Condi making this this little bit in his hometown, and in front of his mom's house at some point on a trick-or-treating scene, and flying me in to this thing. And all of a sudden, like last August or July, I'm doing like 20 interviews and Zoom podcasts and media outlets about Baby Frankenstein, because it's coming out on Prime. I was like, hey, by the way, do you think I could see the movie because I've never seen
Before I'm
it.
promoting this puppy.
Before I talk about it, because I have no idea what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
the producer sent me a link and I watched it and I was like, you know what? With all of the trials and tribulations that ended up happening during and after this movie, it's a testament to someone, completing something and making something happen.
Oh, yeah.
And they never would have made this movie without my two friends, TJ and Denise, because they literally wore like 6 different hats. And, it was just sort of like a broken ant farm on fire type of, we're flying all over the place doing, and I'm just kind of tagging along, waiting for a scene to do and hope I don't look like a total doof in it. And, but that's filmmaking, and you kind of got to celebrate that sometimes. So yeah, all of our Northeast Pennsylvania people,
that's right up? Well, that's the thing, we expect many people to be traveling in from Scranton for sure, but it's amazing the reach that we have, and people have been reaching out for tickets to try to make their way on the lot. But I think we're in for a really, really amazing weekend together, and we're really, really excited to have you again. But before I let you go, not to embarrass you at all, but we follow you on Instagram. You have posted maybe 1 or 2 teen beat photos that I gotta say, like, how does that sit? Like, obviously you have a great sense of humor about it all, and that, but how was that experience being kind of a young star?
I think at the time it's just your life, and it's different than the kid that lives across the street from you,
right,
or that sits across from you in class in 6th or 10th grade. Whatever, this has been going on for years. And you get to that point where you're in these teen magazines, which is the internet of the time,
right?
And this is the pop culture, this is the pinnacle of pop culture for teen scene back then. And to be a part of it, you're constantly in these magazines and doing interviews, doing photo shoots at your house or on a location, and doing fun things like, hey, win a date with Andre, and how many pairs of Adidas does Andre Gower have? He's mentioned it a long time ago. And so you do these these fun, crazy things like win a date with Andre Gower, and it's like your parents are going too. And but these were fun things. You might think they're corny, but for the gals that won the date, like, it was a big deal.
Oh yeah,
time to bring it back, I think.
So you actually went on this date with your parents and with these...
you do it. Yeah, you do it a lot. It's usually going to an event or something, or someone's party. It's not like a candlelit dinner in a mountain restaurant.
Spaghetti's, right? Yeah.
But those are fun, and it's different than most, and you're fortunate enough to actually have that exposure and be part of that scene, because not everybody was. Yeah. Even not every kid that was in the business that was a teenager got to be in the teen magazines. Yeah. And you realize that you're part of a select group at the time, and then of course years later you realize that it really was a very small percentage of the overall number that get to be in these teen magazines. But you also used it as your promotion. That was literally where there was no internet, there was no Instagram. That was the Instagram of the time.
It's a great piece of
nostalgia. Except for when you swiped up like you were ripping a page. So it was actual paper and ink and glossy photos and covers and questionnaires and what's Andre's favorite color, and what's his favorite sport, and it's cheesy fun, but it's perfect for that time. Yeah. But it really was your marketing arm, and if you were fortunate enough, you had to do it and take advantage of it, and you just have fun with it. There's literally only one photo of the bazillions that ran in teen magazines in 5 or 6 year span that I regret. So that's good, and it's probably the most popular one on the internet.
Is it the one where you're juggling? Really, is it the juggling?
So
sorry, I guess that.
Yeah, no, that's why it's not only the only one I regret, but it's the most popular.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So there's a backstory to that, if people know this photo. It was promoting a show called Circus of the Stars. It was a story about me because I was doing the show for the second time, And usually when you're in the circus, you're wearing very weird or tight or, a lot of shiny and sequiny rhinestone type apparel. Yeah. You're in the circus. It's fabulous. And everybody complains, but these are all like handmade Bob Mackie costumes. These are amazing. We were doing a photo shoot and they're like, okay, put your performer top on and then hold the juggling equipment. We'll take a photo. And it's going to be a tease to Circus of the Stars. Like, okay, great. You're not going to see my jeans or anything, right? They're like, no. And damn it, that's the photo that ran as like a centerfold of me in some acid wash jeans and arguably a very cheesy circus top, which is basically a halter top with pirate sleeves, and holding 3 juggling balls with a cheesy grin going,
"Hi, look at me."
And it's really just supposed to be from here. You're never supposed to see the jeans. So it looks like I walk around. That's how I walk around. Like that's the new fashion. Andre wears like Bob Mackie halter tops with some acid wash Levi's. Everybody go out and start. I'm surprised people didn't start wearing it.
It was the trend.
But unfortunately, that's as an adult and going to school and college and work and jobs and offices and friends. And that's everybody's favorite internet photo, of course.
It's perfect. And I love that you have such a great sense of humor. We love following your feed because you have a great relationship with your castmates and obviously making the rounds with the documentary. It's right up our alley, and we love what you do.
Yeah, you had that squad cast, didn't you?
Yeah, that was fun. It was very early on, many years before the doc came around. But Ryan Lambert and I, who played Rudy, just had moved back to LA at the same time, not together, but at the same time. And we were hanging out and catching back up. We had been on the road with each other for 5 or 6 years by then, or almost, 6 or 7 years at the time. And we would cut up and see each other every couple months, but now we're hanging out constantly and we're at the coffee shop or at the bar, just making ourselves, we're just cracking ourselves up. And we're like, that was so fun. Why didn't we record that? That was funny. And then, we finally got smart after a bunch of jabs from some other principals in our lives and said, you guys need a freaking podcast.
Hell yeah.
And because you're very similar, but you're also very funny and just do it casual. And obviously, when Ryan Lambert and I do a podcast, it has to be called Squadcast.
That's genius.
So it was really the no-brainer. It's like all of my shows have really had no-brainer titles. Like there's no other title for a documentary other than Wolfman's Got Nards. And there's no other title for a podcast except for Squadcast. But that was sort of like a primer to something that, I was working on trying to build a brand with Ryan and I. At that time, and we were going to conventions as a duo and we were making appearances and we were looking for hosting gigs. And, I created a show, after we did the podcast called Short Ends, which was Ryan and I hosted it and it was on Nerdist's new digital channel. And they bought the show and we produced it with a great guy named Ben McShane. And what it was a hosted show. Ryan and I just goofed off, but we were showcasing short films and filmmakers. So, circling back to, trying to be supportive of, short filmmakers and local filmmakers and low budget type stuff. This is where people get their start. And I thought I loved the show concept and we did 22 episodes and Ryan and I had a great, time with that. The channel was just bad. That no one subscribed to that channel. But it was a fun show. And we got to show like 81 shorts or 82 shorts. And we got to interview like 35 filmmakers or something. And it was just a good experience that Ryan and I got to, just continue to work together again, even after the podcast. And, and we were kind of early in the podcast game. This is back in like 2014, right?
Yeah.
And, it's early in the podcast game. I think Marin may have started and he was like the king still, but, now there's like 2.5 million podcasts out there. So it's awesome. And we were like, that'd be fun. We'll do like one a month. That's all we did. It's like one a month for like 14 months.
I love it.
But yeah, my Instagram feed with those guys and it's just fun. I don't social media as well as I probably should because it's only about self-promotion. I'm icky about self-promotion, but you got to put your producer hat on. It's all that matters. Like you got to get followers and people supporting you and then telling other people to support you. So,
absolutely.
I understand what it is. It's icky. It's weird. I wish you could just rely on you and your work and let them, let that speak for yourself. But that's not what social media is. So I think I followed you on MySpace.
Actually.
That's awesome. I remember MySpace. And it's fun. And when I try to post something, I don't get political. I don't get, trolly. I don't get mean. Either try to be positive, or I try to, post something that someone's going to laugh or share or have fun with, and or relate to in some way.
Very easy.
That's what I think it's all about. Yeah. I very rarely show you a picture of my salad or what I had for lunch. But sometimes I do.
Sure.
And but yeah, I love showing old, that's where some of these old, teen magazine photos come in handy, because you can pop one up there as a reaction, or someone will make a meme. Someone will make a meme out of one of them, and it's just, you're like, this. I have to share this. Like, you have to share this to people. We have great fans. Like one of a good friend of ours now, the Hoopers in Phoenix, April Hooper, would make memes of something we'd mentioned on the podcast or at an event, and she'd make a meme, put in with an old photo, and be like, I'm stealing this. I got to use it. And I think that's fun. And look, I just got I spent so much time on social media in one day, more than I do in a month, when Ryan Lambert's 50th birthday was just last week. And
that was so fun.
I said, what am I going to do for that? I said, I've got to post 50 photos for a 50th birthday. And boy, that took a long time.
It was beautiful. Because
I have like 600 photos, but I tried to choose a smattering and a good collection. So that I enjoy that. That got good reaction from everyone.
It really shows how close you guys are. That's a beautiful kind of added connection to this film, is, you guys have this lifelong friendship that lives on.
Yeah, that we didn't have for, 16, 17 years, because we didn't see each other for that long. Yeah. We were both living in different places and doing different things. And then we reconnected in 2006, and we both moved back to LA in 2013, 14. And, because of Monster Squad, we've spent a lot of time together traveling, and, when you travel with someone and go and you're doing appearances and stuff, you spend a lot of time.
Oh yeah.
With people. So you get to reconnect and do those things. It's like it's like working with someone in the same office for 10 years.
Yeah.
And, it's not really different. And, but I love hanging out with Ryan, and I love hanging out with Ashley. And, it's the only thing I don't like is that, I wish we were just starting all of this over again, because now it's been 15 years. I'm like, man, we're getting old. This has got to end sometime. Let's go back in time and start it all over. But,
that's amazing.
And I think it's fresh. You keep it fresh and you keep it new. And, a lot of people always say, it's like, don't you get tired of talking about Monster Squad? Or I don't get tired of talking about Wolfman's Got Nards, because that's the product we're hawking right now. So I'll talk about that all day long. But no, we get tired, we get fatigued, but what we do understand, and what I've tried to take away from this Monster Squad resurgence that is not dying, yep. It's not going away. Never. That we may get asked the same question a dozen times, in a couple of weeks, or 100 times we get asked, what was our favorite thing with this or that? And maybe we have heard that question, 50 times. But it's the first time and only time for that person that's asking it on that day. And, to be in a unique position like this, to be able to, 30 something years later, come to the Mahoning Drive-In and, show an old movie and then your new movie, not very many people get to do that. And you've got to understand that, and you've got to respect that kind of statistic, and you've got to appreciate that dynamic a little bit, and just have fun with it. And what we've always tried to do as a cast or in appearances, and especially personally, is, like, so you may have 10 people waiting in line. Like, we're going to hopefully have a ton of people, at the drive-in this weekend. And yeah, the person that says something that's number 1 in line is going to be a person that's number 72 in line. And that's 72 people in between them.
Yeah.
But when number 73 gets to you, it's the first time that they've been in front of you. And so, a little bit, just to be that person on the other side of the table, you owe it to them to, give a little bit of your time and appreciation. And if you don't, then you're doing it wrong.
That's a beautiful perspective. And I guess,
you want to talk about squad fans. They found this drawing I did. You can see it here. It says Monster Squad.
Oh, wow.
I think I was 6.
Hey, that's not bad for 6. I'm glad you said 6 and not like 26. That's good.
But yeah, I'm going way.
You are
back,
going way.
So
well, you already did with the MySpace. Cool. That's great.
Oh yeah. I think I wrote a fan script one time, even for a sequel. I'm sure you've heard that a million times too.
Yeah, and twice today, actually. That's funny. We were in the interview before. He was good. I wrote when I was in high school. I thought it was the best thing ever. And he goes, and then I read it last year and it sucks. Like, but it didn't suck when you wrote it.
Amazing.
I totally understand what you're saying. Out to a lot of people, this is more than just like a movie. This is like, I always saw it as like I saw Goonies after Monster Squad. So to me, that was never like my fandom. It was always Monster Squad, and there's always that comparison. Yeah. But I always see it as if you saw Monster Squad first, that's your movie. If you saw Goonies first, then maybe that's your movie. But I saw Monster
It's a rite
Squad
of passage too into kind of darker material. For me, that's what it was in my childhood. Was okay. There's kids my age. It's accessible, and oh my god, it's scary. So it really like opened up my eyes to a genre that now pretty much fuels my fire, So yeah, I'm sure you get that constantly of people who saw it at the perfect age and, really just connected with it. Like I said, it's really easy to put yourself in your character's shoes, but really all those characters' shoes.
And I think that's the main thing that people connected with was the characters, the character situations, how they interacted with each other, that bonding and that camaraderie. It's just a human condition adventure story, sure. That ends up becoming a survival story that also becomes a hero story. And everybody has their own kind of hero journey in it. And, I think that's something that resonated with the kids or, whenever they saw it. And that's what they said, hey, this is a fun kids movie because it's for me, about me. But it's a little dark. It's a little perilous. Like The Kids in Peril is a little bit more edgy. Look, there's a body count in Monster Squad. Oh, yeah. There really is. And you don't realialize that until you start counting. A year later, you're like, wait a minute.
People are dying.
There's a lot of dead people in this. People are getting smoked. And we're next. But then it's also, a character arc movie of everybody, but especially people like Horace and his character and what that means. That transcends generations, really.
Oh yeah,
and and then you have the whole monster thing. It's this movie. I made an interesting point earlier today with a group of cool dudes that if you had everybody related to the Monster Squad and how they hung out with each other and what they liked and what they were into, and that's what people connected with. And you could have made a movie called The Monster Squad about a group of kids that knew all this monster lore, that were misfits, and they knew all this crazy stuff that no one else cared about. That's why they're friends with each other. And, because no one else is gonna be friends with them. So they band together and build a treehouse and they're their own little world and they're fine. And they prepare their entire adolescence to save the world from monsters, and monsters aren't real. They never come. That'd be a funny movie.
Yeah.
And you'd still connect with the squad and the characters.
Absolutely.
But you plop in this crazy fantastical story of these classic movie and literature monsters into this town with these kids that really all doing is just learning about monsters and being misfit dorks that can only misfit and dork out with each other, because otherwise they're going to get put in a trash can. And now they do have to step up and save the world. Yeah. And what kid watching that isn't going to want? That's super wish fulfillment, not just in the crew and the group misfits coming together, banding together, finding your squad, but also now they get to save the world.
Yeah.
It's like, I relate to these kids, but now these kids have saved the world. I feel like I'm part of that. And that's kind of really the overarching type of thing that people connected with. And, we definitely wanted to touch on that, of why, that was a main reason that, the movie endures and what connected with them. And, we try to cover that a little bit in Wolfman's Got Nards.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning for sure that we have gotten the 35 millimeter print, the rare print, in the past, and we ran it for our double-decker weekend, which is a perfect perfect title for a perfect double.
Yes, that is a good double also.
Yep.
Wait, as long as you showed creeps.
We did. Yep. It was Squad and Creeps, of course.
Not RoboCop 3.
Secret feature, I guess, right?
I love RoboCop 3, by the way. I think
it's incredible. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how much he flies. I'm in.
That's right. That's right.
But of course, with the COVID-19 lockdown and all that stuff, we did have trouble getting the print. So we'll be rocking and rolling here on digital for both shows, and it's going to be a great time. Again, we really hope anybody who's listening to this that hasn't gotten their tickets yet, jump over to mahoningdit.com, to snag your tickets. We are offering camping as well, the overnight passes. So if you guys want to hang out with us throughout the whole weekend, make a weekend of it. But the biggest thing I can say is if you have a munchkin, and I say this a lot on the radio show while we're actually on the lot, and you bring a munchkin, you guys really are doing the work for us. You're passing on the love of the drive-in culture to the next generation. And just like the fandom of these films that we show, and it'll never die, that's certainly the case with the drive-in as well. And passing it on to a youth, just like it captured our hearts when we were young, it goes a long way. So we hope we see a lot of youngsters this weekend for Monster Squad and Wolfman's Got Nards. It's going to be a great one. All right. On that note, guys, anything else you got for Andre?
No, I'm good. I'm wearing the shirt
Yeah.
though.
That's the original. That's the original Fright Rags version. That's
right. I got it right when it's brand new.
Yeah, that's actually, there's some great stuff out there, but because that was kind of the first one out there by those cats, I think it's one of my favorites.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Sure.
Well, Andre, we can't thank you enough. We can't wait to see you on the lot, and of course, have you part of the Mahoning family. On that note, if you guys want to sign off, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
It's been a pleasure, sir.
Thanks for joining us a lot. This has been a blast.
No, awesome. Thanks for having me. Thanks for bringing me in this weekend. I can't be more excited about an event. A lot of them are similar. This is different because it's the drive-in, and I've already kind of, opened up, earlier with, how much I enjoy, the drive-in theater. And so this is sort of like a full circle for me. And I just can't wait to go. So, please bring yourself and your friends and bring your dirt bikes and ride around the lot if you got it. And we'll have fun there. And I'll try to be out there, like Virgil said, early as possible so we can get as much signed. I'm be bringing some stuff. I know, you guys have some rad stuff that you're making that people can purchase and get signed. We're going to make it fun. We're going to make it, we're trying to get as much as possible and won't leave anybody behind. And we're there for 2 days and I can't wait. So, follow me, follow, the drive-in on social media, follow at the Squad Doc if you want more info and then just, can't wait to see you on Friday and Saturday. And we're going to hang out and have a great time.
Have you ever signed a photo of yourself in the juggling gear?
Yeah. I have.
We'll cut that part out. I just had to
No,
ask.
you can leave it. I can't look. I took the photo. It ran. I had no control of it. I've got to accept it.
It's amazing. You should just start bringing them as 8x10s and be like, "Hey, this is me, baby." Acid wash.
Well, I think what people really want is they'd want the circus costume, which I still have, which I still actually have. It no longer fits. But
there you go, the exclusive.
Yeah, and I don't know what's worse, is me wearing the jeans with the top half or actually wearing the entire costume. But that was a much better. There's a whole circus costume story with that one that maybe we'll tell this week.
I love it. Well, Andre, you're the best. We can't thank you enough. And Jeff, on that note, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.